We have a lot to unpack in today's video, including the latest trade talk for the offseason. We're taking a look at the Philadelphia Flyers and the Ottawa Senators. Could there be a fit there as well? The Flyers apparently have a lot of interest in Jacob Chychrun. We're going to look at the fallout here of Sean Couturier, captain of the Flyers. Obviously had some things to say to the media about his healthy scratch. His agent has weighed in as well. And could there not have been one but two blockbuster goalie trades at the deadline that ended up getting rejected due to no trade clauses? We'll discuss all that. Plus, we have more signings today, more prospects. Aliu is attempting a comeback in the American Hockey League. We have some more updates on the Arizona Coyotes arena situation, including some drawings and renderings that will show you kind of what they intend to build if they can pull it off. And we have all that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here, Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we really have a lot of news here to talk about today. Let's kick things off with a bunch of signing news. Let's start first with the most surprising of all, Aliu, former NHL player. Obviously, I'm sure everybody knows who Aliu is by now, even if you didn't know him as a player. He went through a lot. Difficult situations, including facing a lot of racism during his time in the Blackhawks organization. It's what led to the dismissal of Bill Peters as a head coach in the NHL. And Aliu has not played professional hockey since 2020. He did spend a lot of time playing in various leagues. He last played in Europe. He spent a fair bit of time when he was still under NHL contract, on two-way contracts, of course, mostly in the American Hockey League and the East Coast Hockey League. Aliu did, I guess you could say, had his fair share of struggles and, obviously never really made the most of his career that he was hoping to. But like I said, there was a lot of other circumstances around that too. So he's attempting a comeback, which is quite surprising considering he hasn't played in 4 years. He's getting signed by the San Jose Sharks, and they're signing him to their American Hockey League, to the Barracuda, on a tryout for the remainder of the season, for the regular season, that is. So I guess we'll see if Aliu can manage to impress enough to get any additional contract beyond that. Of course, where it's a tryout, they're not really tied to him. They could release him from the tryout before the end of the season if they wish, if it's not going well. But he's never stopped pursuing his dream and still wants to see if he can give it a go, and Mike Greer's giving him that opportunity in San Jose. So we'll be very curious to see this. We've seen the other guys, completely different circumstances, like a Cody Hodgson, for example, recently made a comeback. He's been playing in the AHL, doing relatively well. There's been some NHL teams even taking notice as well. Not for sure that he'll get an NHL opportunity, but he might, and he's certainly looking for that. So be curious to see how Aliu makes out. I mean, Cody Hodgson had a stronger track record of performing at the higher level in the NHL as well, more so than Aliu. So, different set of skill sets there, but we'll see. I certainly wish Aliu the best. I know he's been through a lot, and I hope it works out for him. Some other signings here, mostly prospects, but the Boston Bruins have extended young goaltender Michael DiPietro, who they had picked up from the Canucks back last year. DiPietro gets a 1-year, 2-way contract extension at league minimum, $775,000. So obviously he's been in the Bruins organization after coming over from Vancouver, and he's still looking for an opportunity. Obviously they at some point might have more of an opportunity for guys to move up, but as long as they're running with Ullmark and Swayman at the NHL level, they're going to obviously have a little bit of a log jam at the lower levels, but depth is important for sure, and you never know who's going to work out long term. So good to see that they're impressed enough, at least with DiPietro, to continue having him in the organization. The Rangers today signed one of their prospects, Yaroslav Chemlar, who was a 2021 fifth-round selection. He gets his 3-year entry-level contract, right winger out of Czechia. So obviously somebody who likely comes to North America next season and gets to play in the American Hockey League would be my guess. The Blues have signed one of their top prospects, Theo Lindstein, as a 2023 first-rounder. He gets his 3-year entry-level contracts as well. He had a pretty good season, led all defensemen in scoring at the 2024 World Juniors. So obviously he's a pretty interesting prospect that the Blues are quite excited about. So good to see him get his ELC on the books. The Dallas Stars today also signed Luke Kreis, who's an undrafted defenseman of the U.S. college hockey system. Gets a 2-year ELC because he's 23 years old. Obviously played with Providence in the NCAA this past year, putting up 17 points points in 35 games. So Dallas felt that he was worth taking a chance on with that ELC. And Detroit has signed another goaltender. They get Carter G-Lander, I believe it is. It's basically like Nylander, except with a G instead of a N in the front. Carter G-Lander, which I believe, I'm not sure if it's Gelander or G-Lander, but he gets a 2-year ELC. He played at a Colgate University. So a couple other quick roster updates as well. The Montreal Canadiens, Joshua Roy was injured. The youngster did a shot block and got hurt. Had to be sent back to Montreal for further evaluation. So right now they're just listing him as out indefinitely because they don't have a clear-cut determination on what they're dealing with for the recovery. So we'll get further updates on him likely in the next day or two. The Los Angeles Kings today activated winger Victor Arvidsson from long-term injured reserve. So he'll be available to get back in the lineup as well. A couple of other updates as well. The Leafs-Capitals game tonight. TJ Oshie is going to be out, as well as Alexei Protas. They're both, they were, I think, more like game-time decisions, and it was just announced a short time ago they're not playing tonight. And on the Leafs side, Ryan Reeves is out with an eye injury, and they've healthy scratched veteran defenseman TJ Brodie. Now, this is not the first veteran healthy scratch that we've seen here recently, although this one might not be quite as controversial. And to be honest, the other one, which we're going to talk about further, in the case of Sean Couturier, I'm not even sure it was so much what happened, but how it happened. That was the bigger part of the problem. In this case, Sheldon Keefe spoke to the media, which is, I think, a good idea if you're the head coach, making a longtime veteran a healthy scratch to be able to, talk to the reasons why. It sounds like he's had good communication with the player, which is important, I think, as well. In these cases, he said, that he thinks TJ Brodie hasn't been as good as he needed to be this year, but he thinks that Brodie himself would acknowledge that and understands that, and he feels like they've put and asked maybe too much of him this year as well, and that it might be good just for him to have a day off. So I don't think it'll be long getting him back in the lineup. I know a lot of Leaf fans have been screaming for him not to be paired with Morgan Riley, that they need to change up the pairings and try something different. So obviously this will be an opportunity tonight for somebody else to play with Riley. We'll see how that goes. I don't imagine Brodie will be out of the lineup too long. Connor Timmins draws in, so we'll see how that goes. But like I said, it sounds like it was handled well, explained, and I think in those scenarios, especially as a coach, when you're dealing with a longtime veteran, I think you need to, especially somebody who's often looked upon in leadership roles, communication's everything in those cases. You don't want to be embarrassing players. You got to get your point across, but the communication really is what makes all the difference in that case. And we'll talk about Couturier's case here a little bit further in a few minutes. Some other updates from some prospects. We got some updates from college hockey in the top 10 finalists for this year's Hobey Baker Trophy. Some very interesting names that you guys will all know for the upcoming 2024 draft, or top prospects that have already been drafted. And there is a couple of players that I would call notably absent from this list, but names that are on the list include Macklin Celebrini, who very well might be the front runner here, but Cutter Gauthier, also a real strong season. Of course, the former first rounder for the Flyers that was traded to the Ducks. Lane Hudson, the defensive prospect out of BU, that's the Montreal Canadiens prospect. You had Jackson Blake, Will Smith, the first rounder of the Sharks. Sam Morton's on this list. Of course, Morton just signed as well with the Flames. And then the names that I thought would be on this list that are not include some top guys like Jimmy Snuggerud, Gavin Brindley, Rutger McGroarty. I really thought all those recently drafted high picks were beyond this list. They all had really, really good seasons, but apparently they weren't good enough to make the top 10, which I do find quite surprising, but that's just my opinion. Of course, recently as well, we talked about Canadian U Sports University Hockey with the UNB Reds taking on the national championship here for the second straight year. But the fact that I really even brought it up, because I don't normally cover Canadian University Hockey on this channel, because there isn't a lot from that goes into the NHL, whereas like college hockey and the NCAA, it's worth talking about more, in my opinion, because there's a lot more flow of prospects from that into the NHL. But in Canadian University hockey, the reason I even brought it up was a couple of things. One, the UNB Reds had a perfect season, which is almost unheard of in any league. And head coach Gardner McDougall, who's been there for 24 years, brings home his 9th national championship to the city of Fredericton and the University of New Brunswick, which is absolutely phenomenal. But the other thing that came out today was good news, which is from Jeff Merrick of Sportsnet, indicating that he believes Gardner McDougall is going to be coaching Team Canada at the upcoming World Championships for the U18. So that's a phenomenal opportunity. I am sure Gardner's had other opportunities that he's probably passed up in order to stay coaching university hockey and living in the smaller city, quieter lifestyle, etc. He did take on a chance to coach the St. John Sea Dogs when they were hosting the Memorial Cup not long ago. And after the Sea Dogs went out early in the Quebec League playoffs, they fired their coaching staff, brought Gardner in, and he got them to the Memorial Cup and won. He's a proven winner. So I'm just glad to see him get that opportunity. And hopefully it leads to further things. But like I said, a lot of it is just picking and choosing from him. He's in his 60s now. I think if he was going to take an opportunity, which likely would have been offered him to go up to a higher level, he probably would have done it by now. But we'll probably see him take on, I think, more situations like this where it doesn't interfere with him being a full-time coach with the UNB team. It can just be other teams that he can lead through tournaments, get some other experience, and then, still come back afterwards. So good on him for the opportunity. I hope that gets officially announced, and I hope Jeff Merrick is right on that one. He normally is when it comes to that type of hockey, especially. He's well connected. Some updates on the Arizona Coyotes situation involving their arena. We got some comments today from Gary Bettman and Bill Daly. Of course, the GM meetings were wrapping up here today, so there's more talk from them to the media today instead of them speaking to various general managers once the meetings concluded. We do have a bunch of renderings here that have been posted to the, I believe they're on the Coyotes website as of right now, if I'm not mistaken, but I know earlier today they were considered leaked. I believe they were sent out through their team app, but I'll show you some pictures here. I'll put on the side of me while I talk through this. So just to give you an idea what they're planning to build if everything goes well. But essentially when Bill Daly was asked about potential relocation, getting everything sorted out, one of his quotes were, "It's getting late." So we don't really know what that means. It is getting late in the process for sure. Now they were asked if the auction fails and they wait and nothing happens until June when this auction is supposed to take place. If for whatever reason the Coyotes don't end up being successful here, would they have time to do a relocation for next year? And the answer was probably not. And that's not shocking. I mean, ideally, I think May, which is what we saw from the Thrashers going back to Winnipeg, is kind of pushing it. I don't know if they can really go any further than that. Like Elliot Friedman had reported before that he thought they might be running parallel situations. I think if the only chance right now that it sounds like of the Coyotes being relocated for next year is the NHL would have to decide that they have enough information that they need to pull the plug on that project and move. So, and I don't know right now how likely that is. It doesn't seem like it. I mean, I know there's a lot of people that have heard about them probably going to Salt Lake City. I know there's lots of fans in there probably hoping it happens, but there's lots of fans in Arizona hoping it doesn't happen. And there's lots of people watching this situation. And it just sounds like a complex, complicated thing. Like I said before, where I don't live in that area, it sounds like it's a challenging environment and situation to really fully, completely understand, which is why I normally defer to the locals for more information when I can, because it's difficult. But for right now, it sounds like there's pretty good odds that they're going to be playing at Mullet Arena next year. They also, Daly and Bettman also declined when asked to give a specific kind of cutoff date, if you will, that they need to have something in place. So it sounds like they're buying more time. They obviously must have a fair bit of confidence in Alex Marullo's plan here. Like I said, oftentimes, but not always, these auctions are one bidder auctions, so you can't really lose if you're the only bidder. They already would have had to put forth plans to indicate their intentions of what they're going to use it for and their, how it's going to be built and everything like that. So I don't foresee any issues that way. So it's hard to say. So right now we have some pictures to look at for what they intend to build. It looks nice if they can get there. It sounds like the odds of them getting the plug pulled on them, unless new information comes forth, probably isn't going to result in a relocation. At least not now. At the very least, it sounds like they're going to play at Mullet Arena for at least one more year. But we will see. There could be more information. I wasn't expecting as much of that information is coming today. So time will tell. Now, as I mentioned as well, we have some new information in the trade rumor mill I want to talk about. A couple of things. But before we get really more into trade rumors, I do wonder if it'll impact his future. But Sean Couturier's situation certainly took a little bit of a turn today. I know yesterday when the healthy scratch happened, of course, they ended up winning last night. So it even complicates things further because you don't quite usually see coaches change their lineup when the team wins. So is Couturier going to have to sit longer? I mean, their next game's against Carolina. He's the kind of player you want in there against Carolina. I don't know. I understand his struggles and his production hasn't been good, but at the end of the day, looking further at Couturier's comments, and then there was more comments from his agent in an Athletic article today as well. Couturier basically said, he was frustrated with the situation, and he did say that he was frustrated how he had been treated lately. In the article, basically his agent says that he was really confused. Like his ice time had been gradually cut back. If you look at his ice time in the last 5 to 10 games before the healthy scratch happened, he was typically a 20-minute per game kind of guy. That was slowly cut back. Then he was down. There was a bunch of games where he was around like 15, and then a few more where he was like 13, 12. And then we lead to a healthy scratch. Now, at the end of the day, the bigger problem here is it sounds like the communication really wasn't good. From Torts, I understand the message he's trying to send. He's not really wrong for trying to dress the lineup that best gives him a chance to win. But at the same time, Couturier was just made captain just a month ago. If you look at the bulk of the time frame that we've kind of seen Couturier's game fall off a bit and some struggles take place, he was already in the middle of that when they gave him the captaincy. Now, Tortorella also said earlier this year that there wasn't going to be a captain. And then suddenly there was and surprised everybody. So it makes you wonder, was Tortorella really on board for that? Or was this a case of Danny Briere and Keith Jones and maybe the other guys up in management? I know they involved Tortorella in a lot of those decisions and talks, but maybe they just said, no, we need to do it and kind of overruled them. I don't know. But it makes you think that maybe, just maybe, he didn't really want him to be the captain or wasn't ready to name him that. I don't know. But the communication, according to Couturier's agent, has been poor for some time and just didn't have a lot of good things to say. So it makes you wonder at some point. Now, I'm not saying at this point that they're going to trade Couturier. For one, that's very complicated. He's got a lot of term and money left on his contract. He's missed a lot of time with injuries. This is his first season coming back in like a year and a half or whatever it was. But he's still a good player. And I mean, he's in a slump, yes, but is there more to it than the slump? Because all players seem to go through these stretches. I don't know. I mean, I don't think health-wise there's anything there. But I can't say that unequivocally 100% accurate. But ultimately, we can tell based on the comments from Couturier and his agent that they're not happy. They don't like the communication. Sounds like he probably feels a bit on the embarrassed side. And Brandon Dubinsky, former NHL player who dealt with Torts, I believe on more than one occasion, called him out too on X, or formerly of Twitter, calling him out again, saying these antics are ridiculous, basically. And that, hashtag free Couturier is what he put on there. So, clearly Tortorella has a way. And the sad part is, like I said, from anybody who's on Couturier's side of this, is the team won. So it makes it even harder to say that Torts was wrong when the team played better and won a game against a strong Maple Leaf squad. So will the communication, will the relationship get to a point where somebody asks for a trade? You have to wonder. You really got to wonder. You take a veteran like that who's been a pretty solid 200-foot player. Obviously he's dealt with a lot of injuries, yes, but I don't know. Will it get to that point that the relationship is bad enough that they'll explore moving him? I don't know, because I'm not sure Tortorella's going anywhere, that's for sure. I mean, that would be a very, very complicated trade, to say the least, if they did go down that road. Now, also with Philadelphia, there was, according to reporter Anthony DeMarco, who covers the Flyers for the fourthperiod.com, he says one of their top priorities, maybe not their absolute top, but one of their top, and this would be pretty high on their list of things to do this offseason, would be to find a new partner, a strong partner who can play top pair minutes to play with Jamie Drysdale. And apparently they have a lot of interest, and this is not the first time this has come up, that they were very interested in Senators defenseman Jakob Chychrun. So, of course, Drysdale's a right shot, Chychrun's a left. They can both play their strong sides. We don't know what the Sens are going to do just yet. They may move Chychrun. Like I said before, it's not a given. They probably do move one of their left shot defensemen and try to find a better mix on that back end that works better, so get more defensemen on their strong side, because they do have an abundance of pretty good left shot defensemen. It could be Shabbat that goes. Maybe Chychrun stays. I don't know. At this rate, it's really hard to say what Steve Staios is up to. And it's probably going to boil down to a lot of things. I think there's going to be a lot of conversations around a lot of players. And it's going to boil down to what makes the most sense for what a player can generate for return and what they really feel makes the team better, and etc. So lots of things that we can't really predict in that aspect. But I guess if Couturier was ever moved, I mean, I don't know. I mean, that contract might be a little scary for the Senators to even think about or talk about, given the injury past. But if he could stay healthy, we know they want, in Ottawa, strong pros who can play a 200-foot game, and that describes Couturier to a T. He would know Claude Giroux extremely well. If he was healthy and was going to perform at the way he did the first half of this season, I would say that maybe the Sens and the Flyers need to have some conversations there, if indeed that's a conversation they want to have. But at the same time, that's tricky, and I don't know from either side if that's the best. But at the same time, I do acknowledge the interest in Chychrun, and we'll see where things go. They had conversations around other players earlier in the season as well. So it seems like inevitable at some point we're probably going to see those two teams hook up on a deal. And there is word, according to Nick Kyprios of Sportsnet, that not one but two NHL blockbuster goalie trades were rejected at the trade deadline. We had talked before how Linus Ullmark had invoked his no-trade clause to stay in Boston, and there was a Western Conference team that he was reportedly on the trade block to. Everything was agreed upon, and he wouldn't waive, so it didn't happen. It was believed to be the LA Kings, but there are some reporters that say it wasn't LA, that it was actually Colorado. Whether or not it's, one of those teams appears to be it. But according to Kyprios, he says, and there's already some that have, kind of doubted it, but he says that not only Ullmark, but Jacob Markstrom as well, that the Kings had conversations for trade on both guys, and that both goalies rejected trades to the Kings. Now, Ullmark's reasons seem to be more geographically related, whereas Markstrom had apparently agreed to waive to go to New Jersey. So he's certainly open to being moved. And we heard his comments after everything went down, how he wasn't happy with how it all worked out. The fact that they came and talked to him, got his approval, and then it didn't happen. It's like, why even involve me? Why even talk to me if it's not happening? Like, I don't want to know these things unless it's going down. Anyway, so could both these goalies have rejected the Los Angeles Kings? It sounds like it's possible, but either way, both goalies did invoke their protection in their trades to not go anywhere. But Markstrom was open to the Devils, apparently. We had heard that before. So even though we keep hearing that between UC Saros, Linus Ullmark, and Jacob Markstrom, we could expect any or all of these goalies to be getting a change of scenery this offseason. It sounds like they might be very particular on if they move, and if so, where. So it might prove to be more challenging than any of these teams hope for to make deals to make their teams better. So we'll see. I know there's definitely teams out there that would like to make goalie trades, like the Devils, like the Senators, but will they go to those teams? The Kings obviously one of those as well. Let me know your thoughts on all today's news and rumors down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.